let's first get to the gun issue. As I point out, this is an interview where this fellow is pushing against Kurt Russell relentlessly, coming after him again and again. So I just cut out the spots where Kurt Russell said, all right, you want to talk about what's really going on? Let's talk about what's really going on. Here's the first clip.
Yeah, I don't understand the concepts of conversation of the gun culture. We've lived with guns since, what, the 7th century or something? I don't know.
Guns is a metaphor.
Is it a meme? I don't know.
Disenfranchised white guys need. It makes them feel good because they're being.
You can say what you want. I don't agree with that. So it's not my thing.
Makes people feel like men. Yeah.
Well, you can look. If you think gun control or something like that is going to change a terrorist point of view, I think you're out of your mind.
Yeah, that is perfect. He just took that whole thing. The guy said, oh, you got the culture. It's like is it a meme? Is it a trope? It's something like that, And we've got to talk about that. And he goes, look, if you think you're going to change a terrorist point of view, you're out of your mind, man. He says, I'm going to turn it around like a hockey game where I'm bearing down on the goalie. He's going to be worried about what I'm going to do. That's the whole point of having an armed citizenry. That's why an armed citizenry was the constitutional approach to protect our country, certainly for our own self-defense. It was never the idea, like the New York Times came out this last weekend, where they had a collective editorial, put it on the front page, first time they've done that in decades, a collective editorial from the New York Times staff saying, you need to give up your guns because the government and the police are going to protect you. And if you have guns, it just makes their job more dangerous and difficult. No, they don't do that. They've had numerous court decisions where they've been sued by people because people said, you didn't do a very good job of protecting me or my family. And they said, that's not our job. That's not our job. Our job is to enforce the government's policies. Our job is to write tickets for you. Our job is to make sure you obey the orders. It is not to defend you. And we've had honest police chiefs who said, we'll catch the bad guys, but understand it's going to take a while before we can get there. We have many police chiefs talking about that, saying to their citizens, sheriffs and others, saying, look, you need to arm yourself. You need to learn how to use this safely because we cannot respond quickly enough to help you. Just as we saw the data coming out this last week saying when people are armed, the average number of people killed in a mass shooting is just over 2. When there's nobody around that is carrying, the number of people who are killed is just over 14. That's precisely what Kurt Russell is talking about. But then there's another clip. Let's play this second clip. The interviewer keeps coming after him. Let's play that clip.
Guys who are on the no-fly list because of terrorist connections, can get a gun pretty easily.
They can also make a bomb pretty easily.
Yeah.
So what?
They didn't kill the people in San Bernardino.
Oh, but they've killed others that way. Haven't they? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are you going to do? Outlaw everything? That isn't the answer.
Just put some controls.
Put some controls. What? So the people who want to defend themselves can't?
Yeah, I got to say, I thought America was dead. But, Snake Plissken, Kurt Russell, has just revived my faith in America. Common sense, telling this guy, look, you're going to put them on a list. You're going to take away their rights because they're on a list. You think these people, if you think you're really going to keep them from getting a gun because they can't go in and buy one retail, you think they can't get a gun? Give me a break. Give me a break. And he points out, of course, they can do bombs pretty easily. They can use cars. Where I used to live in North Carolina, we had a Muslim drive a car into a crowd. They didn't report that too much because UNC loves the Muslim community. They had, kumbaya parties after 9/11. But that's the reality of things, folks. But here's the other reality. The other reality is that we have something called due process in the law. The other reality is that we got a president who's got not only a no-fly list, he's got an indefinite detention list. He's also got an assassination list. Which list are you on? He could put you on any one of these lists at any time, and you won't even know it. You won't know that you're on the no-fly list until they shut you down some way, until they say, sorry, you can't travel. You can't buy something to defend yourself, or whatever other sanctions they want to put on attached to this list. You don't know that you're on the indefinite detention without trial list either until the military shows up at your door one day and takes you off to a concentration camp, because these are secret lists. This is the kind of country that we're creating in this world, in America, right here. This is precisely what is wrong with this country, is the fact that none of our politicians will stand up and object to the fact that we have a list. They'll debate as to what should be done to the people that the government has put on the list without process. Let me read to you the Constitution, since we've got a lot of politicians who either don't care or don't know what's in the Constitution. The Fifth Amendment says no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property. And, of course, our rights are a property, okay? Without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Eminent domain, Donald Trump. Sixth Amendment says the right to a speedy trial, a public trial, folks. That means no star chamber. They wrote this because there was a secretive judicial process in England that could try people in absentia without them even knowing they've been indicted, without them being able to confront their witnesses. Oh, yeah, that's in there, too. You get a public trial, a speedy trial, an impartial jury. You are to be informed of the nature and the consent of the accusations against you, not put on a secret list by Obama or by George Bush or by Donald Trump or whoever wants to put you on a list. No, you are to be confronted with the witnesses against you. You are to be allowed to provide witnesses in your favor. And if you can't afford one, you have the assistance of a counsel for your defense. Oh, but they get around this. They say, oh, but this is not criminal. We haven't charged anybody with it. This is just civil. We just take your property with the drug war by saying it's a civil asset forfeiture. That's why we don't have to give you a trial. Nonsense. Nonsense. If you're going to fall for that kind of sophistry, you're just a slave. And when they talk about, oh, well, we're not charging you, we're just going to punish you without charging you. We're going to punish you without giving you a trial. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about what some of the Republican candidates think. We know what the Democrats think about this, taking your guns if you're on some super secret list that they put you on without any due process. We're going to tell you what the Republicans say about that when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host on this Friday, December 11th. We have some specials today. One of those is, of course, free shipping on all InfoWarsStore.com orders for at least the next week. That ends, I think, it is 1 week. It's December 18th. We also have some other specials. The Essentials Pack, Survival Shield X2, Super Male, Female Vitality, Silver Bullet, 33% off if you get those three together. Also, a Deep Cleansing Pack where you get Deep Cleanse, Living Defense, and Oxy Powder, 28% off. Winter Sun, Vitamin D3, 15% off. All of those are there, plus you get free shipping, again, for anything that you order at InfoWars Store. I'm anxious to look at the new product that we have, the InfoWars Solar Base Station Power Supply. That's something I've looked at buying for myself for quite some time. I haven't done it before because of the price, but the price is very, very aggressive on this solar power plus battery plus inverter and AC outlets. It's a great something everybody should have as a backup generator at the very least. Now, I want to get back to what we were talking about in the last segment. And that is, are we going to take people's guns? Are we going to start to punish people without due process? Because throughout the war on drugs, since the time of Ronald Reagan, we have been stealing property from people without charging them of a crime, without convicting them. And so now we're going to start taking away other things from people, things like their rights to have and own a gun. We're going to take that away because we're going to put them on a secret list that they don't know. We're not going to charge them with any crimes. We're not going to take them through the due process procedure. They're not going to get a public trial. As a matter of fact, they won't even know. How's that? They won't even know until they go to get their gun or go to fly on a plane. They won't even know that they're on a no-fly list. Won't that be great? And, of course, it isn't going to help us to fight the terrorists, because they're going to find their ways to get guns. They're not going to go down to Walmart to get their guns. They'll do that if it's really easy, but it's not really much of an obstacle anywhere else for them to get guns. They can get guns in the Northeast anywhere they want to. Black markets spring up wherever you've got prohibition, folks. Remember alcohol? Remember the war on drugs? Yeah, we're still doing that, aren't we? 40-some-odd years, 44 years. It was 1971. Richard Nixon put that in, enacting that UN agenda. Down to the letter, down to the last, all four schedules, the drugs that they wanted to put schedule by schedule, that was created by the UN in 1961. Conservatives ought to be concerned about that. The UN created this agenda in 1961, and Richard Nixon implemented it in 1971 and called it the war on drugs. And then Ronald Reagan came in and said, we're going to take people's property without convicting them, without even charging them. And we'll get around the Constitution by saying it's not a criminal action, it's a civil action. And so we've allowed that to happen, go on for now 30 years. So Obama thinks that he can take other rights of ours, and let's see where the Republican candidates are, because we all know that Hillary agrees with that, with Obama's action. We've got a Connecticut governor who is now saying that he's going to start implementing that. He's going to look and see if you're on the no-fly list, and if you are, then he's going to take away your rights to have guns. I think people need to arrest him. Arrest that Connecticut governor who thinks that he's going to turn America into some kind of a star chamber dictatorship, or some kind of Star Chamber Spanish Inquisition can put you on a list and take everything that you've got. Because they're not going to stop just by confiscating your car on the road with civil asset forfeiture. They're not going to stop by taking your guns. It's going to just continue to go. They're going to have more lists. Like I point out, he's already got a no-fly list, an indefinite detention list, an assassination list. Are you on any of those? Well, you don't know, do you? Because there's no rule of law in America anymore. So where do the Republican candidates fall on this? Well, we had this last Sunday. Several of them were asked about this specific situation. If somebody is on a no-fly list, and the assumption that the Democrats have, the assumption the mainstream media is putting out there, if you're on that list, you're a terrorist. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. So you had, that was the first line of defense, and the only line, really, that they brought up, because they don't want to push back against the idea that they're not giving people due process. Republican candidates are not standing up for that, except for Rand Paul. He's the only one who's had any problem with civil asset forfeiture, but Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush don't. At least Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush said, look, you had people like former Senator Ted Kennedy who showed up on the list. You had people like Cat Stevens show up on the list. Conservative writer Stephen Hayes, they got put on the no-fly list. And they were put on there by accident. You got people who have similar names to somebody else put on there. We've had toddlers and infants put on the no-fly list. So that was their line of defense, and say, we're not going to take away people's guns because they're on some list. And Rubio goes on to say, though, he says, now, if it were a perfect list, are you kidding me? Read the Constitution. You're not going to have your property taken away without due process. Due process means it's a public trial with witnesses. You know what the charges are. You know you're being charged with something. So there isn't any perfect list. There's something called due process. When we come back, I'm going to tell you about what's going on with this shooting up our children. Not with guns, but with needles. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. We were just talking about the tepid, limp-wristed response to taking people's guns because they're on a super-secret list. Of course, that's what Obama wants to do. Hillary supports it. All the Democrats support it. Connecticut governor says he's going to enact that. And this Sunday, you had Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush come out and say, well, you know, sometimes there's mistakes on that list, and so I wouldn't take people's guns, and it's not exactly a perfect list. If it were, we could take their guns or whatever. No, you're not a terrorist because Obama put you on a list. You're not a terrorist because the next president puts you on a list. You're just living in a post-constitutional America. But what did some of the other candidates say? Well, John Kasich was asked the same question, and he said, you know, I think it's a good idea to keep people on the no-fly list from buying guns. But he added that doing so could tip them off that they're under watch, and it could hurt ongoing investigations. So, you know, let's maybe, yeah, we could take their guns. Oh, no, but then they would know that they're on this super secret list. You know, maybe you need to have a double super secret list that we put them on. I don't know. Yeah, we got the secret government operates in the dark, taking our rights without due process. But, you know, yeah, don't tell them that they're on the list. You know, then you got Donald Trump. Donald Trump says, I'd certainly take a look at that, at taking people's guns because they're on the no-fly list. And he says, you know, I'm very strong into the whole thing with Second Amendment. But if you can't fly, and if you've got some really bad, well, I would look at that very hard. Yeah. In other words, yeah, I'm not even going to question the fact that we got a list. None of them do. None of them do. None of them question what the constitutional requirements are. They just look at the pragmatics of this, you know? Well, can we do this? Is it going to make us safer if we take everybody's guns, if we take everybody's rights, if we treat everybody like slaves? You know, if you don't have any principles, everything is up for grabs. You know, if you don't have any principles that you hold dear about freedom of speech, that's up for grabs. The internet's up for grabs. Your due process, your private property is up for grabs. If they think they need it or they want it, they just take it because there's no principles to stop them from doing that. You know, we have another right. We have a right, and this is not in the Constitution. It's not protected in the Constitution. It's not deliberately enumerated in the Constitution. as part of the Bill of Rights. We have a right to actually overthrow this government. That's in the Declaration of Independence when they're talking about why they were doing the revolution. They said we have a right and a duty when a government comes after our rights to alter or abolish that government. Because the governments were set up to protect our rights. The governments were not set up so that these guys could have a lifelong career. They weren't set up so that they could have a life of luxury, a lavish pension. No, they were set up to protect our rights. But of course, that's what it's become in post-constitutional America. And before I move on to what's going on with this vaccine situation, because that's another one of our rights that they're taking away, I want to talk about this recent court decision. Of course, this has to do with yet another one of these secret lists, the assassination list. Of course, they call it the disposition matrix. Isn't that great? Doesn't that sound kind of like a Robert Ludlum spy novel, you know, from back, when was that, 70s or whatever? The disposition matrix. No, it's nothing but a kill list. It's just a dirty little kill list by a bunch of people who have no respect for human life, no respect for the Constitution that they swore to, okay? The disposition matrix contains the names of terrorist suspects arrayed against an accounting of resources that they can use to track them down. It includes sealed indictments. Oh, we can't tell people that we're really going to kill them, can we? You know, that we're tracking them for this. And it also contains clandestine operations. So our entire government is now a dark CIA government. They're the ones who are running the government, folks. All right, for the last 4 years, they point out in this article, the New York Times journalist Charlie Savage has waged a battle against the Obama administration, seeking to reveal the government's legal justifications for assassinating terror suspects without a trial. Without a trial. I talked last night a great deal about Saudi Arabia, how they're on track to have the most number of executions ever. They've already had more than they've had in a couple of decades. They've had 150 beheadings this year. Of course, you can get beheaded for just about anything. If they accuse you of stampeding people at the stoning of Satan ceremony in Mecca, then they beheaded 28 people for that. They've got another 50 people that they say they're going to behead in a single day. That'll put them over the limit. That'll set the new record. So Guinness people need to get ready for that. But of course, we have a government that also kills people and doesn't pretend to have any good reason for it. So the ACLU has been fighting for 11 memos that would basically give them an idea of what the legal justification is supposed to be for this. And of course, there is no legal justification. I guess you could just get this out in the open, but we all know there's no legal justification, don't we, for a government that's just going to assassinate people by putting them on a list. And of course, that includes Americans. We saw that happen with Anwar al-Awlaki and his 16-year-old son, both of whom were American citizens, both of whom used to be wined and dined by the CIA and the Pentagon. They used to be part of the inside, but just like Manuel Noriega, you cross these guys in the CIA like George Bush, and pretty soon they start calling you a strongman or a terrorist, and then they come down and they kill you. So they say, according to the ACLU, of more than the 500 credibly reported strikes, only 9 have been acknowledged on the record. Of more than 4,800 credibly reported deaths, only 11 have been acknowledged by the United States government. We don't know how many individuals are currently on the kill list. So that's the state of America, folks. And that's what our Republican candidates can't or won't get their head around, with the exception of Rand Paul. He has talked about it, but of course they're not going to include him in the next debate because they say that he hasn't made the poll numbers on it. So we're going to have people who would consider it strongly, like Donald Trump. He's very strong into that whole Second Amendment thing, because his advisors had told him, if you don't want to lose the vote of the Republicans, you get yourself a Bible and a gun and talk about the fact you got a Bible and a gun and you love these things. You really love that. I love that Bible. I've got this Bible sitting on my counter. I've got a gun in my back pocket. I'm into that whole thing about the Second Amendment, whatever that is, okay? But, hey, if you're dangerous, I'll take it. If you are somebody that maybe we think we want to label you a terrorist, we'll shut down the internet or corners of the internet. We'll just censor that and take away that freedom.
Another GOP debate is upon us. A time to see how much attention will be allotted to establishment candidates who are dragging in the polls.
These are Republican governors. They don't give any credit to the free market. They don't give any credit to the entrepreneur.
All is not lost, though. Some are speaking on real issues.
But if you're not going to respond in a no-fly zone strategy, what would yours be?
The first thing I would do is I wouldn't arm our enemies. I wouldn't arm ISIS.
Yes.
Will controversial statements impact some of the candidates?
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Join InfoWars this Tuesday, December 15th, starting at 7 p.m. Central for another episode of Political Science Theater 3K.
Clean, pure drinking water. You can't survive without it. But where do you get it? Alexa Pure Pro is a brand new, groundbreaking, gravity-fed water filtration system that is like no other. The Alexa Pure Pro transforms water from virtually any fresh source into clean, healthy drinking water, pairing the unprecedented superfiltration power of an all-new gravity block core with a hybrid chromatic shell. It removes up to 99.999% of impurities, including bacteria, viruses, fluoride, disinfectants, volatile organic contaminants, and hormones. Filter capacity up to 5,000 gallons. Stainless steel construction. Easy assembly. Low maintenance. Replacement filters are simple to install. And now, as part of an exclusive limited time introductory offer, you can save $20 off the retail price and get free shipping. This is a limited time offer, so order your unit today and receive free shipping and $20 off. Go to InfoWarsStore.com or call 888-253-3139.